Hey everybody, I was reading the news and found another article that I thought I'd give you a couple comments on. And here's the title. It says, Why It Is Necessary to Understand the Development of Life Through Evolution and Not Religion. An excerpt from Explaining Life Through Evolution by Prasanta Chakrabarty. I hope I didn't butcher his name too badly. Now, as we read through the article, there's a couple things that came up, so let me share those with you. For instance, let's say your answer to why apples drop to the ground when they fall out of a tree is, God made it happen, quote unquote. That isn't something I can prove false, because I can't test it. My first comment is this. It's kind of interesting that he uses that example about gravity and the apple, because who's kind of famous for that? Anybody ever hear of Isaac Newton? Yeah. And guess what? Isaac Newton was not just a Christian, he was a creationist. So many times this argument that you can't do science and believe in a God that created the way that he said that he did in his word is thrown at us, but it's a lie. The example that he just used is from a creationist, Isaac Newton. But there's some more. Take a listen. The problem again with the teaching God controls everything is that you can't prove or disprove it. In order to respond to a Noah's flood scenario, I say there is no boat that can fit a pair of all living land animals, and having just a pair of each species wouldn't provide enough genetic variability to restock the earth. And it can't rain for 40 days and 40 nights worldwide because we have a finite amount of water on earth. And also, all the freshwater animals would go extinct as they would be inundated by salty marine water. And where did all the water go afterwards? And there is no evidence of a huge worldwide flood from a few thousand years ago. Boy, is there a lot thrown out there, and yes, we deal with it. As a matter of fact, in the upcoming questions book that we're doing, our first one was, Did Jesus commit suicide? And 27 other questions that teens ask about the Bible that adults need to know too. Well, guess what? In the second one, we're actually dealing with the saltwater, freshwater problem. And there's an answer. It's not a problem. But let me deal with a couple of the other ones here. The first one. The problem, again, with the teaching of God controls everything is that you can't prove or disprove it. Well, guess what? How do you prove that something came from nothing? You know how you do it? You redefine the term nothing, and that's exactly what the scientific world does. That's not science, even according to his explanation then. If you can't prove it, you can't test it, and you can't test something coming from nothing. And by the way, you can't test life coming from non-life. All of which this is being jammed down our kids' throats like that's actual science, but it's not. How about the next point? There is no boat that can fit a pair of all living land animals, and having just a pair of each species wouldn't provide enough genetic variability to restock the earth. We know when somebody tells me this, they couldn't fit all the animals on the boat. Well, how many animals had to go onto the boat? The Bible's very clear how many animals would have had to have gone onto the boat and which types of animals. By the way, how big was the boat? Well, we have a problem with that because so many times we see the rinky-dinky boat growing up that we think that that's just a joke. When you look at the actual size given to us in the scripture, the size of the ark was amazing. And I would highly recommend that you take a trip to Kentucky and go to the Ark Encounter. It's an amazing place to go visit. And by the way, watch our debunked video. We'll put a link down below. Watch our debunked video on how they fit all the animals on the boat. But the bottom line is there are answers to how they fit them in there. Now, the water, 40 days of rain, when you start reading the scripture, that's not where all the water came from. Where did the water actually come from? Take a look at the world that we live in right now. There is more subterranean water on this planet right now than there is on the surface of the earth. And when God said the fountains of the deep broke open, that would have meant that the water underground would have shot up through the ocean, which would have, by the way, it would have caused underwater landslide called turbidites, which would have covered things up very quickly in layers. That's what we see in the fossil record. It would have shot up through the ocean, throwing water vapor into the atmosphere to give you the mechanism for the 40 days of rain. But that's not where the water all came from. It was fountains of the deep breaking open. You see, people will mock and make fun of the scripture, but there are actually answers to this. So, again, these are just a couple of nuggets out of there. I would highly encourage you to get in to read this article and then go do some digging. Go watch that debunked on how they could fit all the animals on the boat. Don't be deceived. The Bible has answers to the issues that we're confronted with. Stay bold.